Victoria Henson sighed as she carefully arranged the centerpiece on the ballroom's display table. The crystal vase caught the late afternoon sunlight filtering through the Grand Meridian Hotel's towering windows, casting rainbow prisms across the cream tablecloth. Another charity gala perfectly planned down to the last detail. That's what Victoria did best: create flawless events in a hotel whose mysterious owner she'd never even met. Is everything to your satisfaction, Miss Henson? Roberto, the hotel's head of housekeeping, appeared at her side with clipboard in hand. Almost perfect, Roberto. Could we adjust the lighting over the stage? It needs to be softer for the keynote speech. As the hotel's senior event coordinator for the past 3 years, Victoria had orchestrated everything from Fortune 500 corporate retreats to celebrity weddings at the Grand Meridian. The 5-star luxury hotel was the crown jewel of downtown Chicago, and Victoria took pride in maintaining its impeccable reputation even if the owner, Sebastian Quinn, was perpetually absent. All she knew about Sebastian Quinn was what hotel gossip provided. A 32-year-old millionaire who'd inherited the hotel from his father and expanded it into a small but prestigious chain. He communicated exclusively through the hotel's general manager, Gerald Foster, a stern man who relayed Quinn's occasional directives with the gravity of royal decrees. Victoria finished her inspection of the ballroom just as her phone buzzed. A text from Gerald. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. Important announcement, she frowned. Gerald never called impromptu meetings unless something was wrong. Had bookings declined? Was there a problem with her latest event? Victoria's mind raced through possibilities as she headed to her office, heels clicking against the marble floor. The next morning, Victoria arrived 15 minutes early, as was her habit. The conference room gradually filled with department heads and senior staff, all sharing the same concerned expressions. Gerald entered precisely at 9, accompanied by a tall man Victoria had never seen before. He wore a tailored charcoal suit that screamed expensive taste, but it was his presence that commanded attention. Dark brown hair styled in a casual sweep, strong jawline with just the right amount of stubble, and piercing blue eyes that surveyed the room with quiet confidence. "Good morning, everyone," Gerald said. "I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Sebastian Quinn, owner of the Grand Meridian." Victoria nearly dropped her tablet. This was Sebastian Quinn. The absentee owner who'd been nothing more than a name on corporate memos was standing just feet away from her. And he was nothing like she'd imagined. She'd pictured an older man, perhaps balding and portly from years of indulgence. Not this imposing figure who couldn't be more than a few years older than her own 29 years. "Thank you, Gerald," Sebastian said, his voice deep and measured. "I appreciate your introduction, though it's a bit formal for my taste. I've decided to take a more hands-on approach with the Grand Meridian moving forward. This hotel was my father's legacy, and I want to ensure it maintains the standard of excellence he established." Victoria felt her heart rate quicken as Sebastian's gaze swept across the room, briefly meeting hers before moving on. "I'll be working closely with each department over the coming months," he continued. "I look forward to getting to know all of you and learning about the contributions you make to this establishment." After the meeting, Victoria hurried back to her office, trying to process this development. Sebastian Quinn, in the flesh, walking the same halls she did. It would certainly change the dynamic around the hotel. Her phone rang. Gerald's extension. "Victoria, Mr. Quinn would like to start his departmental reviews with events and catering. He's particularly interested in the upcoming charity gala for the Children's Hospital. Can you prepare a complete overview of the event by tomorrow morning? He'd like to meet with you at 11. Victoria swallowed hard. "Of course, Gerald, I'll have everything ready." She spent the rest of the day and well into the evening preparing a comprehensive presentation on the gala. This was her chance to impress the owner with her meticulous planning and creativity. By midnight, she had assembled a detailed portfolio that showcased every aspect of the event, from the themed decor to the custom menu she'd developed with the executive chef. The next morning, Victoria dressed with extra care in her most professional outfit, a navy blue pencil skirt and matching blazer over a cream silk blouse. She arrived at Sebastian's temporary office, which had once been a private dining room, 5 minutes before their scheduled meeting. His assistant, a poised woman named Deanne, ushered her in promptly at 11. Sebastian stood by the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline. When he turned, Victoria was struck again by how young he was for someone who commanded such an empire. "Miss Henson, please come in," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "I've heard nothing but praise about your work here." Victoria sat, placing her portfolio on the desk between them. "Thank you, Mr. Quinn. The Grand Meridian makes it easy to excel. The facilities and staff are exceptional." He smiled, and Victoria noticed the way it transformed his serious face, creating a small dimple in his right cheek. "Please call me Sebastian. Mr. Quinn was my father." "Then you should call me Victoria," she replied, surprised by her own boldness. "Victoria," he repeated, as if testing how the name felt on his tongue. "Gerald tells me you're the reason our event bookings have increased 40% in the last 2 years. She felt her cheeks warm at the unexpected compliment. "I can't take all the credit, it's a team effort." Modesty. "Refreshing in this industry." Sebastian opened her portfolio. "Now, tell me about this charity gala. I understand it's one of our largest events of the season." For the next hour, Victoria walked Sebastian through her plans for the gala, explaining her choices for everything from the entertainment to the lighting design. He listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that revealed he knew far more about event planning than she'd expected. "This is impressive work," Sebastian said when she finished, "but I'm curious why you chose this particular theme. The Enchanted Garden seems a bit conventional for our brand." Victoria hadn't expected critique. The Children's Hospital specifically requested something magical but sophisticated. Many of their patients will be attending, and they wanted an environment that would feel special to children without seeming childish to the donors. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, considering. "And what would you have chosen if you had complete creative freedom?" Victoria hesitated only briefly. "A night among the stars, not space-themed but celestial elegance. Midnight blue linens, crystal and silver accents, thousands of tiny lights creating constellations across the ceiling. Each table could represent a different zodiac sign, subtly incorporated into the centerpieces." As she spoke, her passion for her work shone through, hands gesturing to paint an invisible picture in the air between them. Sebastian's eyes never left her face. When she finished, a slow smile spread across his features. "That's brilliant, Victoria. Could you adapt the concept to incorporate the children's theme?" "Absolutely. I could create a narrative about wishes upon stars, tie it to the hospital's mission of bringing hope to children. We could even have a special wishing ceremony as part of the evening's program." Sebastian nodded, clearly impressed. "Make it happen. I'll approve any additional budget required." Victoria blinked in surprise. "But the event is in 3 weeks, and we've already ordered most of the materials for the Enchanted Garden. Then we'll donate those materials to the hospital for their playrooms and redirect our resources. I trust you can make the necessary adjustments." There was something in his tone that brooked no argument, yet Victoria couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement at the challenge. "I'll start right away." "Good, and I'd like to attend your planning meetings going forward. This is exactly the kind of creative thinking I want to encourage throughout the hotel." Over the next 3 weeks, Victoria worked tirelessly to transform her concept into reality. Sebastian attended every major planning meeting, offering suggestions that were surprisingly insightful for someone who claimed to have little experience with event planning. One evening, a week before the gala, Victoria was in the ballroom late, testing the new lighting system that would project star patterns across the ceiling. The room was empty except for her and the lighting technician in the control booth. Can you make the transition smoother between these two scenes? She called to the technician. Like this? The stars shifted, swirling gracefully across the ceiling in a slow dance of light. Perfect, Victoria murmured, staring upward in wonder. It certainly is, came a voice from behind her. Victoria startled, turning to find Sebastian standing in the doorway, his tie loosened and jacket discarded. I didn't mean to frighten you, he said, walking into the ballroom. I saw the lights from my office window and wondered who was working so late. Just putting the finishing touches on the star projections, Victoria explained, suddenly aware of how alone they were in the vast space. What do you think? Sebastian looked up, and the reflected starlight played across his face, highlighting the strong lines of his profile. It's beyond anything I imagined. You've created something magical here, Victoria. There was genuine admiration in his voice and something else, a warmth that made her heart skip. Thank you, she said softly. I couldn't have done it without your support. Sebastian's gaze returned to her. Have you eaten dinner? I realized I worked straight through and was about to order something. Victoria glanced at her watch, surprised to see it was nearly 9. I haven't actually, I lost track of time. Join me, we can eat in my office and go over any last-minute details for the gala. She should decline. Sharing a late dinner with her boss's boss, technically seemed unprofessional, but the way he asked, with no presumption, just a simple invitation, made it hard to refuse. That would be nice, thank you. Sebastian ordered from the hotel's kitchen, and they ate at the small conference table in his office, surrounded by gala plans and hotel reports. The conversation flowed easily from work to more personal topics, how Sebastian had initially resisted taking over his father's hotel business, preferring to build his own path in real estate development. But then my father passed away suddenly 3 years ago, he explained, setting down his fork. And I realized how much the Grand Meridian meant to him. I couldn't bear to sell it. Is that why you've decided to become more involved now? Victoria asked. Sebastian nodded. I spent the first 2 years expanding our properties, managing from a distance, but something was missing. I wasn't connecting with the heart of what makes these hotels special, the people who bring them to life every day. Victoria understood completely. That's what drew me to event planning, creating moments that become memories, making spaces feel magical, even if just for one night. Sebastian studied her with interest. How did you end up at the Grand Meridian? Victoria hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. My previous position ended unexpectedly. The Grand Meridian was advertising for an event coordinator, and I needed a fresh start. Their loss, our gain, Sebastian said simply, not pushing for details. Victoria appreciated his discretion. Her previous job at another luxury hotel had ended when she refused the advances of a client, a wealthy donor who'd complained to management when she rejected him. The hotel had sided with the donor, and Victoria had been quietly but firmly asked to resign. It was a chapter of her life she preferred to keep closed. The night of the gala arrived, and Victoria was everywhere at once, checking details, directing staff, solving minor crises before they could become major problems. She wore a floor-length gown of midnight blue that complemented the event's theme, her long brown hair swept up in an elegant chignon. She was checking the seating arrangements at the VIP table when she felt a presence behind her. You've outdone yourself, Sebastian said, looking handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. The transformation is remarkable, Victoria turned, offering a genuine smile. Thank you. I'm glad you approve. More than approve, I'm impressed. His eyes took in her appearance with appreciation. And you look stunning, if you don't mind my saying so. Victoria felt a blush creep up her neck. Thank you, you clean up pretty well yourself. Sebastian chuckled. High praise from someone with your eye for detail. The gala was a tremendous success. Children from the hospital gasped in delight at the celestial wonderland Victoria had created, while donors opened their checkbooks with unprecedented generosity. The wishing ceremony, where each child released a paper lantern with their wish written inside, brought tears to even the most stoic guests. Throughout the evening, Victoria was aware of Sebastian's presence. He moved through the crowd with easy confidence, charming donors and kneeling to speak with children at their level. Several times, she caught him watching her, and each time he offered a small smile that seemed meant just for her. As the evening wound down and guests began to depart, Victoria retreated to a quiet corner to review her checklist one final time. The event had exceeded expectations in every way, raising nearly double the previous year's donations. "Congratulations," Sebastian said, approaching with 2 flutes of champagne. He handed one to her. "To new stars in the Grand Meridian's universe." Victoria accepted the glass, touched by the gesture. "Thank you for trusting my vision." "I should be thanking you. The hospital director just told me this was their most successful fundraiser ever." Sebastian clinked his glass against hers. "You have a remarkable gift, Victoria." They stood in comfortable silence, sipping champagne and watching the last of the guests say their goodbyes. Victoria felt a curious mixture of exhaustion and elation, the usual post-event crash tempered by the warmth of Sebastian's presence beside her. "What's next on your calendar?" Sebastian asked. "Another spectacular event to plan," Victoria nodded. "The International Business Awards next month." "Not quite as heartwarming as tonight, but important for the hotel's reputation. I look forward to seeing what you create." Sebastian hesitated, then added, "I'd like your input on something else as well. I'm considering renovating the rooftop garden into an event space. Would you be willing to consult on the design?" "I'd be honored," Victoria replied, genuinely excited by the prospect. "The views from up there are incredible. It could become our most requested venue." Sebastian smiled. "My thoughts exactly. Are you free for lunch tomorrow?" "We could discuss initial concepts." Victoria knew she should maintain professional boundaries, but the invitation seemed innocent enough. "That sounds perfect." The lunch meeting extended into a 3-hour brainstorming session, with Victoria and Sebastian discovering they shared similar aesthetic sensibilities and a vision for elevating the hotel's offerings. By the end, they had sketched preliminary designs for a stunning rooftop space that would showcase the Chicago skyline while providing an intimate setting for exclusive events. "This is exactly what I hoped for when I decided to take a more active role at the Grand Meridian," Sebastian said as they wrapped up. "Finding talented people who care as much about this place as I do." Victoria gathered her notes. "It's easy to care about something that's become such a big part of your life." Sebastian regarded her thoughtfully. "Would you join me for dinner this weekend? Not to discuss work, just dinner." Victoria felt her pulse quicken. "Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Quinn?" "Sebastian," he corrected gently. "And yes, I am. Unless you have a policy against dating hotel owners, she should say no." Office romances were complicated enough without adding the power dynamic of him being the owner. But there was something about Sebastian that drew her in his intelligence, his genuine interest in her ideas, the way he looked at her as if truly seeing her. "I'd like that," she heard herself saying. Their first date took place at a small Italian restaurant far from the Grand Meridian, where they wouldn't be recognized by staff or guests. Sebastian arrived with a single yellow rose less presumptuous than red, he explained with a smile. Over pasta and wine, they deliberately avoided shop talk, instead discovering shared interests in architecture, travel, and classic films. Victoria learned that behind Sebastian's polished exterior was a man who volunteered at his grandfather's former neighborhood, funding after-school programs for underprivileged kids. Sebastian, in turn, was captivated by Victoria's stories of growing up in a large, boisterous family in Michigan before moving to Chicago to pursue her career. "My parents thought I was crazy to leave my hometown," Victoria admitted. "They expected me to work for my dad's construction company, handling their office administration. But that wasn't your passion," Sebastian guessed. Victoria shook her head. I always loved creating experiences. Even as a kid, I was the one organizing neighborhood talent shows and family reunions. When I took an event planning course in college, everything clicked. I understand that feeling, Sebastian said. Real estate development gives me that same satisfaction seeing something take shape from just an idea. As they walked back to her apartment building, snow began to fall in soft, fat flakes that caught in Victoria's hair. Sebastian reached out, gently brushing one from her cheek. I had a wonderful time tonight, he said softly. So did I. Victoria looked up at him, snowflakes melting on her eyelashes. But I'm worried about complicating things at work. Sebastian considered her words. I respect that concern. How about this at the hotel? We keep things strictly professional. No one needs to know we're seeing each other unless we decide this is going somewhere. Victoria nodded. That seems reasonable. He leaned down, hesitating just before his lips met hers. Is this okay? In answer, Victoria closed the distance between them, meeting his kiss with a warmth that belied the falling snow around them. Over the next few weeks, they settled into a rhythm, professional collaborators by day, gradually becoming something more in their private time. Sebastian kept his word about maintaining boundaries at work, treating Victoria with the same respect he showed all his senior staff. Only occasionally would his gaze linger on her during meetings, or would their fingers brush when passing documents, sending electricity through her veins. After hours was different. They discovered favorite restaurants, attended jazz clubs where they could sit close in dimly lit corners, and spent long evenings in Sebastian's penthouse apartment, talking until dawn about their hopes and dreams. Victoria learned that Sebastian's wealth made him cautious in relationships. People see the millionaire first, the man second, he explained one night as they sat on his balcony overlooking the city lights. It's why I never corrected anyone's assumptions that I was some distant, uninvolved owner. It let me observe how people behaved when they didn't think I was watching. Victoria frowned. That sounds lonely. It was, he admitted. Until I met someone who impressed me with her talent before she knew who I was. The renovation of the rooftop garden proceeded quickly, with Victoria's vision guiding the transformation. When it was finally completed, Sebastian arranged for them to have a private dinner there, the first meal served in the new space. Under a canopy of twinkling lights that mirrored the star theme Victoria had created for the children's gala, Sebastian took her hand across the table. I have a confession to make. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried? That depends, he said with a small smile. I didn't suddenly decide to take a more active role in the hotel because of some business strategy. No, Sebastian shook his head. I came to the Children's Hospital Gala the year before anonymously as just another donor. You were coordinating it then, too. Victoria remembered that event, a winter wonderland theme she'd been particularly proud of. I was captivated by how passionately you directed everything, how you made each child feel special. I watched you solve crisis after crisis without breaking your smile. Sebastian's voice grew soft. I decided then that I needed to meet the woman who brought such heart to my father's hotel. Victoria was speechless. You came back because of me? I came back for many reasons, Sebastian clarified. But yes, meeting you was high on the list. I just never expected to fall in love. Victoria supplied, her heart racing at her own boldness. Sebastian's eyes widened slightly, then softened. Yes, exactly that. He stood, pulling Victoria to her feet and drawing her close. I love you, Victoria Henson. These past months have been the happiest of my life. Victoria reached up, tracing the line of his jaw with gentle fingers. I love you too, Sebastian, and not for your hotel or your millions, just for you. Their kiss beneath the stars felt like a promise, a beginning. 6 months later, the Grand Meridian hosted another gala, this one celebrating the engagement of hotel owner Sebastian Quinn to senior event coordinator Victoria Henson. The venue was, of course, the rooftop garden they had designed together. now the most sought-after event space in Chicago. As they danced under actual stars rather than projected ones, Victoria couldn't help but marvel at how her life had changed. "What are you thinking about, future Mrs. Quinn?" Sebastian murmured against her hair. "That sometimes the most beautiful events are the ones we don't plan," Victoria replied, looking up at the man who had gone from mysterious absent owner to the love of her life. Sebastian smiled, drawing her closer. "I don't know about that. You planned a pretty spectacular future for us." "We planned it together," Victoria corrected him. And as they danced beneath the Chicago sky, surrounded by friends and colleagues who had watched their love story unfold, Victoria knew that no event she could ever coordinate would match the magic of finding love when she least expected it with the Millionaire hotel owner who'd been watching her all along. 1 year after their wedding, Victoria and Sebastian celebrated the grand opening of the newest addition to their hotel chain, a boutique property specifically designed for exclusive events and celebrations. Victoria had taken charge of the concept, creating a space that combined luxury with warmth, sophistication with accessibility. The Quinn touch, people called it in the industry, recognizing the unique blend of Sebastian's business acumen and Victoria's creative vision. As they cut the ribbon together, flashbulbs popping around them, Sebastian leaned close to his wife's ear. "Remember when you worried about complicating things at work?" Victoria laughed, squeezing his hand. "Best complication of my life." Later that night, as they walked through the empty ballroom of their new hotel, Sebastian pulled Victoria into a spontaneous dance, humming softly as they swayed across the polished floor. "What do you think?" he asked, gesturing to the space around them. "Will people make good memories here?" Victoria rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "The best kind, the ones that last a lifetime." Like theirs had from a chance meeting between an event planner and the Millionaire hotel owner she never knew was watching, to a partnership built on respect, admiration, and a love that transformed them both. "What's our next adventure?" Sebastian asked as he twirled her under the crystal chandeliers. Victoria smiled up at him, her eyes shining with the same creativity and passion that had first captured his heart. "I was thinking, maybe a nursery?" Sebastian stopped mid-step, his expression shifting from surprise to joy. "Are you saying?" Victoria nodded, placing his hand gently on her still flat stomach. "Our newest project, coming in about 7 months." Sebastian lifted her in his arms, spinning them both as his laughter echoed through the empty ballroom. When he set her down, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "Victoria Quinn, you plan the most extraordinary events." And as they stood together, planning their greatest collaboration yet, Victoria knew that sometimes the most perfect events weren't the ones in grand hotels or under starlit skies, but the quiet moments of connection that built a life worth celebrating.